Hello, this is Chef John from foodwishes.com with Mumbo Sauce. That's right, I'm going to show you one of Washington, D.C.'s most iconic culinary creations. I mean, this is right up there with the city's famous... what do they make in Washington? I can't think of anything off the top of my head. So I guess Washington would be considered more of a drinking town. Or at the very least, a town that makes you want to drink. But regardless, this delicious sweet and sour condiment is very popular there, where it's served in Chinese takeout places on chicken wings, and for some reason French fries. So if you're still watching, let's go ahead and get started. And we'll begin by adding 1 can of tomato paste into this saucepan. And the big debate among Mumbo Sauce aficionados is whether the base should be tomato paste or ketchup. And every time I hear about an argument like that, I always think to myself, why can't we use both? So that's what I'm going to do for my version. I'm also going to add in some ketchup to the paste. And then once that's in, we will continue on, pleasing like a Polynesian, with a big old splash of pineapple juice. And more than a splash, we'll do like a cup. And then to that we will add a cup of white distilled vinegar, which is the vinegar we use when we want to add acidity, but not add any extra flavors. Like with a wine vinegar, for example. I'm also going to toss in the juice of 1 freshly squeezed lemon, as well as a pinch of white sugar, to help balance out all those acidic ingredients we already added. Plus, we will also add some honey. And if you can, you always want to try to use local honey, although I forget why. But anyway, we'll continue on with a little bit of salty umami flavor in the form of soy sauce. And no, not the low sodium kind. That sort of defeats the purpose. And then next up, if we want a little bit of heat, which we do, we'll toss in a spoon of cayenne. And then last but not least, we will finish up with a rounded tablespoon of freshly grated ginger. And that is going to be it for our Mumbo Sauce ingredients. And then we'll take a whisk and give this a thorough mixing. And by the way, you certainly don't have to make this much. I'm doing sort of an extra large version, which of course I'm going to call a Mumbo Grande. I wish I could have come up with a better name. But anyway, we'll stir that together. And then head over to the stove where we're going to put this on medium-high heat, where we will turn it into a sauce by simply letting it simmer for 10 minutes. So what we'll do is simply let this come up to temperature, maybe giving it a stir or two. And as soon as our mixture starts to bubble, we will back our heat down to medium-low and let it simmer fairly gently for 10 minutes. Okay, so we're not really cooking or reducing the sauce, but we do want to give it enough time for those flavors to meld together. And if everything's gone according to plan, after 10 minutes it should look something similar to this. And then all we'll do at this point is turn off the heat, and then give it a stir. And then I like to let it sit for a little while to cool down just a bit before I strain it. And yes, you could strain this right away, while dangerously hot. But if you do, somehow, someway, a little bit will splash on you. And I'm not sure why. You'll have to take that up with the universe. But I do recommend letting it sit for a little bit before we strain it. And by the way, speaking of optional steps, you don't have to strain this. You can certainly use it as is. But since I added that fresh ginger, which could be a little bit fibrous, I do like to strain that out so I have a perfectly smooth sauce. But of course, that's going to be up to you. You guys are, after all, the party bosses of your Mumbo sauces, and you wield all the decision-making power in your kitchen. But for me personally, it is worth the extra minute. And then once strained, if we are doing that, our Mumbo sauce is now ready to use. And right here you get a look at that just thick enough texture. An absolutely gorgeous color. I mean, that almost looks good enough to be artificial. So I was really thrilled with how this came out. And although I've never had an actual real Mumbo sauce from DC, I assume this was spot on. And just as good, if not better, than anything you're going to get there. So with that, let me go ahead and serve some up. On some experimental rice-coated chicken wings, which explains their possibly odd look. And while I'm not sure about French fries, this really was an amazing combination. Right, this is sort of like a sweet and sour sauce meets a plum sauce meets a barbecue sauce meets that mystery clear orange sauce you get in that package when you buy frozen egg rolls. So kind of different and familiar. Exotic yet comforting. All right, fairly sweet but also very tangy, with lots of tropical fruitiness and just a little bit of heat at the end. So I very much enjoyed dipping those in, and then decided to serve some more with the more traditional pouring the sauce over the top, which really does make for a striking, borderline scary presentation. And while they were messier, I do think I preferred this method. It just seemed more mumbo-ish. Oh, and by the way, quick production note. I actually had a wisdom tooth pulled yesterday, and I have stitches in my mouth. So my apologies if I slurred a few words, and this sounded more like a mumble sauce. But as they say, the show must go on. And as I said, I really did like how these came out. But anyway, that's it. My West Coast take on Mumbo Sauce. Since we're heading straight into the middle of chicken wing season, a bowl or two of this sauce may come in handy. Which reminds me, stay tuned for the Rice Krispie chicken wing experiment, which will be coming soon. But in the meantime, I really do hope you give this interesting and very unique Washington, D.C. condiment a try soon. So head over to foodwishes.com for all the ingredient amounts and more info as usual. And as always, enjoy.